In this episode, we're speaking to the amazing Kieron Bryan. Kieron, in his own word, was a part of his own environment and had limiting beliefs around money, which were counterproductive in terms of his long-term prospects. This mentality led to a 25-year prison sentence. However, due to a paradigm shift initiated by education, he was able to unlock a millionaire mindset. This new mindset empowered him to achieve all this whilst in prison. He read over 250 books, gained first-class honors degree in business, organized several motivational events where he gave speeches, developed programs encouraging prisoners to use their time constructively, learned to forex trade, read all the books published before 2021 on blockchain technology, published a book which teaches children how to play chess, and became the first person in the world to publish a book and sell the characters as NFTs, and start an award-winning consultancy business. Started the Whatbox think tank and the business ecosystem, and is now employed 10 people. Let's speak to Kieron and find out how he definitely changed his life by changing his mindset. Let's find out. Welcome. This is Gull, your money mindset expert, and today I'm really excited. We have an amazing individual named Kieron Bryan. Welcome, Kieron.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you so much. I'm doing well, Kieron. Kieron, everyone's heard your intro. They know how fabulous you are, but please, in your own words, tell everybody what it is that you do.
Right now, I'm a public speaker and entrepreneur, and I'm studying for my master's at Middlesex University.
Wonderful. Now, Kieron, I know we connected on LinkedIn, and I was fascinated with your story. I think you were sharing, but being somebody else's, and I realized you have such a unique story. I want you to share that with our audience. Tell everybody why I got fascinated with you. Talk us through, because you've had your fair share of struggles and you've overcome them so well. So please talk us through, how did your journey begin? Which environment did you grow up in, and how did you become an entrepreneur just in a young age?
So I grew up in a lot of urban areas. So at one stage I lived in Manchester, then I lived in Birmingham, then I lived in London and Hertfordshire.
Okay.
And
what was the reason for moving around so much?
And my mum she just loves moving. She lives in Jamaica now.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't aware of the fundamental reasons for moving at that time because they was young ages, but I knew that she must like to move because we moved a lot. I'm sure there is more important reasons, but I haven't spoke to her about it. So I used to play football a lot and take it seriously at that age, eat, breathe, and sleep football at secondary school age.
Okay.
And I played for a lot of high-level teams. And someone innocently said to me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "Obviously a footballer." So they started laughing. It was two of my friends' parents. They started laughing. So I was like, "But your son wants to be a footballer as well. Why are you laughing?" So they were saying, "Obviously, we've got our own business and he's going to university and then eventually he's going to run the business. So he's got a backup plan if he doesn't make it in football, because right now, every kid your age wants to be a footballer and you're all not going to make it. So you need to have a backup plan."
Okay.
Now I'm older, I understand what they was trying to say. But at that age, I interpreted it as I need a backup plan. And I was so naive at that age and the environment I grew up in. I thought if I didn't make it in football, I'm going to end up hustling on the streets because they're my only two options. I've mentioned this to a lot of people who grew up in different backgrounds, and some of them find it unbelievable that I would think that way. However, the demographic I'm from and the background I have, that is a normal way to think.
I
I know
agree. I agree. So
a
I'm gonna
lot of
stop you.
people
I'm gonna
now.
stop you there for a
Sorry,
second because I
sorry.
grew up in similar background. So I
Yeah,
grew
yeah,
up in, you would say, East London. So London's
yeah,
East
yeah,
London in Waltham.
yeah,
If you're not familiar with Walthamstow, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
where I grew up, right? And not in just in Walthamstow, which is now High Fly and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
the council
Right.
estate
Yeah,
of Marconi estate, whatever,
yeah,
in
yeah,
East
yeah, yeah,
London, which they're by the way torn down now. They've got houses
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was
It's
torn down.
gentrified. It's been
Yeah.
gentrified.
It was literally it was a ghetto area. It was yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
about
yeah,
15 years ago, they tore it down and they've got new houses there and whatever. They've built it
yeah,
up because it need trust me, it needed to be built up. It was
yeah,
really,
yeah,
really a real ghetto area. And I
yeah,
know
yeah,
what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
yes, I grew up in there, and I'm not the norm. I am the rare example. I did do very
yeah,
well
yeah,
in studies, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted to do X, Y, Z. But I saw because my brother was part of it, was similar to you because maybe also because he was a
yeah,
boy. He grew up with similar people that you did,
yeah,
and
yeah,
their idea of being self-sufficient and having money is exactly what you probably were exposed to.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think with
yeah,
me, I saw him and I went the complete opposite direction,
yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah,
studied
yeah,
really, really hard.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But if you, I can understand him thinking the same thing because he wanted money. He wanted to make sure that he had money
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
support
yeah, yeah,
himself. And
yeah,
this is what
yeah,
I want to say. Anybody who says, "Well, no, that's not true," I have experienced it firsthand, and I
yeah,
can
yeah,
say
yeah,
the thinking that you're mentioning is the norm, and it
yeah,
is
yeah,
that is very common thing.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I need to have a backup plan. What can I do? How can I
yeah,
make money? And
yeah,
it
yeah,
goes on, and it's realistic to think
yeah,
that
yeah,
it happens more often than me.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
I'm the rare
yeah, yeah,
example.
yeah, yeah, exactly that, because I found it very, very interesting to explain that to that story to people who couldn't comprehend it.
Yeah,
Like
because they haven't
they
been in that
literally
environment.
couldn't comprehend it. And I was like, it's still happening now. I know people who are rapping now, like
Mm.
trying to become successful musicians, that if they don't make it in music, they believe they're gonna go back to selling drugs and hustling,
Yeah, yeah.
and they believe wholeheartedly that is their
The
only
only
option.
option, only
So
option.
so yeah,
And it's I think this
yeah,
is something needs to be highlighted. So
yeah,
it's that lack of awareness that there are other options that you know now that
yeah,
you
yeah,
can be an entrepreneur, you can do so
yeah,
many
yeah,
things. I mean, the skill, I promise you, the skill that's required to
yeah,
hustle with drugs and overcoming
yeah, yeah,
police and everything, the
yeah, yeah,
mindset required, the intelligence
yeah,
is required. You
yeah.
put that to good use, you can be a amazing
Exactly,
entrepreneur.
exactly. And that is the realization that I came
Yeah.
to eventually. However, at the time, um, I literally believed they was my only options.
Right.
So what I ended up doing, which I'm very impressed with now, but at the time, it was nothing. What I done is I went to school, printed off some flyers for a football tournament, and £2 an entry, I think it was, 7 players per team, and the prize money was like 200 or £250. And this is maybe 2003 to maybe, I'm just guessing, I don't know
Mm.
the exact date. So I printed off all the flyers, and then I made the excuse from Monday to Friday of reasons I needed to leave school early. And I got to the other schools just before they finished. So what I'll do is get to the school, hand out the flyers at that school on one day, the next day do a different school. And I've done that every day. I also went to one of my friends who worked in Tesco at the time and asked them, "Oh, can you get me some Coca-Cola cans and barbecue burgers and the disposable barbecues? Lend me the money. Well, but buy it and bring it to the youth club on Saturday, and then I'm gonna give you whatever you spent. I'm gonna give you double back." So I had a little time convincing them to do it, and then they done it in the end. And because my parents didn't really take me to football, I just didn't envision what happened, which was all the players came that I expected, but with their parents and their siblings, and the place was packed. So I've gone to the youth club, asked them, can I borrow the football goals? They said, yes, no problem. And so we borrowed the football goals. I um, got my friend's brother to referee. Um, Obviously, it was kind of rigged because at that age, I was playing football day in, day out, and I knew all the best players. So I was already thinking we're going to win the tournament. Um, So we did win the tournament. Because we had all the best players, and obviously I knew we was gonna win anyway. And we got the money from the barbecue sales, burgers and drinks and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So had a lump sum there, and I ended up using that lump sum to buy my first load of drugs. But I didn't know I was so enterprising. I just thought, obviously, this is desperation. I'm in desperation. But when I told the story later on,
Can you
that's when I
imagine
come
that?
to the realization that if I only, because even when I think about it now, I'm like, how come the youth club people didn't pull me aside and said, you arranged all this, you need to focus, where. But I remember they was too worried about insurance, because they're like, we didn't know you meant to borrow it for this. Like when they came outside, they was in shock. So I guess everyone was processing what was happening differently. The parents probably think I didn't organize it. So there was no one to say what you just done.
Is amazing. I
Yeah,
think
and you should be able to leverage that and carry on in that way. Because I
yeah,
guess I could have just went,
you're a born entrepreneur. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
basically what you are.
yeah. So started hustling in that
How
after
old were
that.
you then? Can you just sort of tell me how old were you then?
Maybe 14 or something like that. Maybe
Wow,
about
so a 14-year-old pulled off
yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Amazing.
yeah,
So
yeah, and got
I
yeah,
I want to highlight something else.
yeah,
You did all of that in order to have money to buy drugs.
yeah, 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 yeah. And
Right?
and smart enough to pull it off, but not smart enough to know that if you was able to pull that off, you don't need to sell drugs. You can be successful somewhere else.
But for that, and now here's something that I want to highlight, okay? For that, you need to do a couple of things. Either be exposed to the right sort of books like Think and Grow Rich, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, etc.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
in that environment, nobody would have access to those kind of books. It's very rare for you to have access to those books.
of course, of
Or
course.
alternatively, a mentor, a teacher, a parent, an uncle or aunt, or someone who can
Yeah,
take you
yeah,
under their wing and mentor you and extract that out of you and make you realize that, oh my God, look how amazing you are. Look how
yeah,
amazing
yeah,
you are.
yeah,
Stop focusing on this. You can take
yeah,
those skills
yeah,
and focus on it. But I
yeah,
think
yeah,
what you just highlighted to me and everybody listening at the moment is how brilliant these young people are. And when you're talking, I'm remembering what the brother, my brother went through the opposite same thing as well.
yeah, yeah,
He's brilliant. He's brilliant as an entrepreneur. He would make a terrible employee, but he's a brilliant as an entrepreneur. But exactly, he
yeah,
thinks of the same things. He would think da, 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 and I remember thinking, oh my God, use like mine to something else. You look how far you'd get.
yeah, yeah,
But you didn't have that mentor. Not neither did he, by the way.
yeah,
You didn't
yeah.
have that mentor or that support network to make you realize how special and gifted you are.
Oh,
And
thank
so
you.
you took that energy to the one thing you know was everybody else is doing drugs and they're making money. That's what I think to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly that. Exactly that. So after that, I was very methodical in how I was approaching the selling of drugs in that at that time. So I made progress in a short amount of time and ended up getting deeper and deeper into it.
Mm.
Um, and it culminated with me going to jail for a shooting, and getting 25 years.
Wow.
So
How old were you when you got into this and did you into this fight and whatever
so, um, when I got that sentence, I was 21, 22 years
and
old. Yeah.
when did the incident occur? How old were you then?
That got me at the same age. At the same age. Yeah.
21.
Yeah.
So at
Yeah. Yeah.
21, you were now 7 years into your drugs entrepreneurship,
Yeah. Yeah.
and which was the logical conclusion to it, because that's where
Yeah.
you'll end up. Everyone
Yeah.
knows
Yeah.
that crime doesn't pay for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That so you end up behind bars for for a gunfight
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and got 25 years. Now,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so how much of that did you serve, and what happened then?
Um.
How did you transform? How did this boy who went in thinking this is it, but who was ambitious? First of all, let's talk about this. When you got 25 years, that is life. How
Yeah.
did you feel and what happened? What was going on in your mind?
Okay. So it wasn't a life sentence, it was a straight sentence.
Was it straight
So
25 years?
yeah, yeah. So the difference is obviously if you get 25 years life, you have to apply for parole after 25 years.
Okay.
So every year after 25 years, you're allowed to apply to be released.
Okay.
And there is no determinate period of time that they have to let you out. Do
Okay.
you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So it depends on your behavior, etc., etc. And with a straight sentence, you get a release date.
Okay.
So I got the release date straight away. I ended up serving just under 13 years, and I was released about however long the end of September was, 2, 3 months ago.
So you've been out for 2, 3 months. What? Tell me, what's happened since when you went inside, and how did that Kieron change to the
Okay,
gentleman standing in front of me?
so I was doing my sentence, and I had no inclination to change.
Mm.
Um, I was just thinking, I'm just gonna get back to doing what I was doing. And it goes back to what you were saying about having access to certain books at that age would have helped me.
Yeah.
I actually was just chilling watching TV one day and I heard a joke that said, if you want to hide something from a man, pull it in a book.
Mm.
And at the time, I hadn't read a book and I found it so offensive and I was so, um, it affected me so much because they was talking about me. I
Mm.
haven't read a book yet. So
Say that phrase again. If you want to hide something,
if you want to hide something from a black man, pull it in a book. Have you never heard that phrase?
I've never heard that before.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. So it's like a popular joke that everyone's heard it before. That was the first time I heard it, and
And now
obviously I
that hit you hard because
that hit
you weren't reading exactly.
that yeah that hit me hard because they was talking. I was the butt of that joke.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do was to test the theory.
Okay.
So I thought, all right, let me see if they really know what they're talking about because everyone I know says it's a mystery who killed Tupac and Biggie. Because
Mm.
remember, I'm young,
Yeah.
so you got to put it in context. I'm young. That's the only mystery I know about that no one knows. And based on that joke, if they're right, it will be in the books.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I read the books, and everything that happened is in all the books, minute by minute, second by second. There's no mysteries. The only reason they believe it's a mysteries is because
They haven't read the
it's
books.
it's if they haven't read the books and because it's unsolved in the police's eyes, how the police talk about it, that means it must be a mystery. But in reality, it wasn't um it wasn't ideal for prosecution. This person died, that person passed away. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah.
it was unprosecutable rather than unsolved. So I read about them, realized that their thing. I said, all right, let me check it again. I read about JFK.
Mm-hmm.
So same, they know everything that happened. They know everything that was involved. They know the mafia, how the mafia was involved, how the CIA was involved, how they
Mm.
set up Lee Harvey Oswald. They
Yeah.
know everything.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
in there.
definitely. Yeah.
It's not a mystery. It's just in the books. So after that, that gave me like a reading bug. So I got a bug for reading. So I started reading about all of the people in history that I keep hearing their names, but I don't know why I keep hearing their names. So Napoleon, Genghis Khan, Marcus Garvey, Hannibal, Alexander the Great, Nelson Mandela, everyone you can think about. I was reading as much as I could get hold of about these different names in history that I kept hearing. I read a lot about Black history that helped me a lot. In terms of, I might as well say how they helped me as I go. In terms of reading about the people from history, that helped me with my confidence in terms of I imagine the scale in my head, and at the top of the scale we've got the president of the UN, for example, and at the bottom of the scale you've got someone who was born poor in a poor country. And I'm reading about people all of the time who are coming from this place, poor in a poor country, and get into this place, equivalent to president of the UN, for example. So over and over, I'm reading stories after story after story. And I came to the realization that where I am, which is poor in a rich country, being born poor in a rich country, and where I want to go to, a successful business entrepreneur, is a little distance to travel compared to all of the people who I've read about who have traveled that distance over and over again. So that gave me confidence straight away. Like, I'm able to go from there to there. If they're able to go from there to there, different stories, different parts of the world, different circumstances, but they're able to travel that bigger distance than me over and over again, I thought that gave me confidence. So I started reading Black history as well. And what that did is that a lot of people, as you would know, from my demographic, from my background, my environment, have inferiority complex, but they wouldn't even know what inferiority complex is.
Yes.
So how I interpreted my education before reading Black history was that they went to Africa and everyone was uncivilized, cannibals.
So I want to stop here for a second. That's the image, that propaganda that is still being pushed in the Western media, that anything which wasn't European, or and that which, because European became America, the white supremacy became America, became Australia, became obviously UK as well. Everything was uncivilized, but that's not the case. The richest man ever lived was a Black man. Lived was a Black man.
So that's the exact point, in that I interpret that education in a way that just they was uncivilized, they were unorganized, they were cannibals. We enslaved them. Once we enslaved them, as the Europeans I'm talking, after a few hundred years, after learning from us how to be civilized,
they became civilized.
And once we realized they were civilized, we let them go. So that's how I interpreted the education I got. And all of the everything I'm exposed to confirms that stereotype. So any movies, cartoons I'm watching,
100%, movies, books, even mainstream books that we are exposed to in schools. It goes, and images. The images we have of Africa or even Arab world is in old clothing, traditional clothing, barely and skin exposed. Where it's not what you see powerful leaders, but these people who are poor, in poverty, and in
and I'm sure you can imagine me and myself reading some of these things and looking around like, oh, does anyone else know this? So, and then obviously everyone else does know it. It's just I didn't know it. And
your demographic doesn't know it. That's the thing. So educated Black and brown people do know it. It's just your demographic, which is the Blacks and brown boys mostly don't know it.
Don't know it, and couldn't even comprehend most of the things in there. So what that did was, because obviously I'm telling you now in hindsight my journey, but I didn't know these concepts at the time, such as inferiority complex. But a lot of my demographic, they have something against that 9-to-5 culture and just working, and that is the inferiority complex. They understand they've got to start at the bottom and work their way up, but they think starting at the bottom and having someone tell you go clean that toilet, for example, or go do that, you try to not put yourself in that situation, because you know that as soon as they say that to you, the whole history of slavery is going to come down on you, on your thing, and you subconsciously you're going to interpret that as, oh, I'm back in that same place. So what we tend to do is try to shy away from that, and that's why the roads are so appealing. That's why hustling and that I'm my own boss, I'm doing it for myself, I'm stuck.
Oh my God, that is so insightful, Kieron. I have to pause you and say that is so insightful. That's probably one of the best explanations of why A lot of Black and a lot of brown people are adverse
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
you know, the 9 to 5s.
yeah,
There
yeah,
are
yeah,
people, that's why they get so many Black and brown people who are entrepreneurs, because they don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
that. I get, oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, and that's the exact reason. And the worst thing about it, you don't know that's the reason. I had to study to know, okay, that's the feeling I had at work experience, for example. So I understood it at a deeper level because I lived it, and now I'm learning the concepts that are influencing my behavior.
Yeah.
So so I read about that. Then I started reading about motivational books, self-help books. So in the end, I ended up reading over 250 books, all non-fiction.
Wow.
And I started to read about um different concepts that experts talk about, and what and everything I'm telling you revolves around confidence, in giving me like unprecedented confidence. For example, like I read someone who's considered a genius saying that if any human read everything ever written about a pen lid, they would be able to innovate the pen lid to make it better. So
Mm-hmm.
if any human read every piece of writing written about a pen lid, that human would be able to innovate it, and then everyone would call him a genius.
Yeah.
So once I understood that concept, I said, okay, so even a genius is saying this. You're not a born genius.
Yeah.
It's about the information you obtain on a subject that people would call you a genius. So all of them things that I was reading about was giving me just confidence after confidence after confidence. And couple that with most of this is in the category A prison, so most people are doing the 30 rec life sentences that you was talking about.
Mm.
Most people are doing them sentences, and these are name brand criminals, for lack of a better word, is that
Yeah.
these are infamous criminals who
Criminals. Yeah.
their name holds weight. And for me to be telling them certain things and them finding it unbelievable,
Mm.
there's no way you done that. It's impossible. When I thought these are the people who would believe it straight away because they've lived it, been there, done it. So that was giving me confidence as well, because they were saying you could not achieve that. That it's impossible for you to have done what you're telling us you done. But I actually really done it. So
Mm.
that was giving me a lot of confidence as well. So if you couple all of them things together, then I decided to do my degree. So I started my degree,
And
and again,
this is all in the prison, right?
this is all in prison. So started my degree and started doing a business degree, and I had to do an access course because I had no evidence of studying that level. So you've got to prove you can study at that level. And again, I was very methodical in it, and I came up with a system where I would just go through the question of the assignment and look at how many points it offers. So, for example, they might say there's 20 points. There's 20 points offered for that question. You're awarded 20 points if you get it right. And I would break it down and realize, okay, so there's four subject matters that they want you to talk about. So that means each subject matter must be allocated five points. So then I thought, okay, well, that means I've got to make they've got to have 5 places to mark each subject matter. And I ended up doing it in a methodical way and getting a distinction. And I made the decision getting distinctions in my assignments. And then I made the decision straight away, I'm going to get a distinction overall, which I did end up getting. But obviously, that's coming from a place where I had to overcome some self-imposed barriers where I used to tell myself, "Oh, I'm not good at academic work. I'm not a class guy. I'm not built for university." They're all self-imposed barriers. No one put
Yep.
them barriers there. I've been telling myself that and believing it as if it was gospel, when really it was nonsense. So once I realized that and I was getting grades and stuff, I wanted to share that with other prisoners. So I ended up working for education and being in charge of organizing motivational events for
Oh,
the prison.
inside the prison, yeah.
Yep. So I
How,
would
just give me a
organize,
rough idea. How old are you now? So how old would you be around this
35.
age?
I'm
You're 30.
35. And
No, when you were doing this, so go back in. So when you would, yeah.
So everything I'm telling you about is going on through the whole sentence. And I really started this maybe 3 years into the sentence. So I'm 24, 25.
So when you started your degree at 24, 25, and then that's when you started the motivational thing as well.
Yeah. So, but a little bit after. So I started my degree first. Then after a bit, I was carrying on reading. Then I started doing the motivational events and stuff like that. So so I started doing the motivational events, and in that capacity, I would ask the prison to invite in different organizations to give a talk, and I would also give a speech. And in the speech, I would talk about all the people I read about, and that the thing they had in common was they all were described as good orators. And at the time, I didn't know what that meant, so I had to go research what that meant, which is good at public speaking. So I would let the prisoners know the reason I'm giving a speech now is because of this. I've read that and I need to practice that because I want to be successful. And that's what they say successful people have in common. So then I will talk about overcoming self-imposed barriers. Then I will talk about the 10,000 hours principle in terms of it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill or become an expert on a subject. That's what all the motivational books that I've read say.
Yeah.
And we have a long time to do in prison. So you could now take the opportunity to, for example, become a world expert on soil rejuvenation, computer coding, electric car batteries. So these are some of the examples I would give them and say to them, if you utilized your time well and became a world expert on one of these subjects or whatever you are interested in, when you are released, yes, we do have that where someone doesn't want to give you a job because you've been to prison, for example. And the reason they don't want to give you the job is because they think you might nick £20 out of the till, for example. If you are released and you're a world expert who's read over 100 books on soil rejuvenation, for example, and they need you in Saudi Arabia, they're not going to care you've been to prison. They want your expertise over here at the price.
And you've shown your dedication to your subject matter by putting in the hours. So and rather than actually taking the short route, you've spent the time learning about your craft, and that's what that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and if you, for example, done that without getting a formal qualification, it doesn't matter, because what happens is that you will be picking up esoteric knowledge and jargon that only people in that industry would know. And once you're around them, they will know straight away whether you have read 100 books on soil rejuvenation. Because if you lot was to hear someone talk about selling drugs and he's never sold drugs, you would hear his mistakes straight away. Instantly.
Exactly.
So that's how it works in that world. So don't worry about, so this is, I'm just redoing my speech. That's what I used to talk about on the speeches. And I made a lot of good connections there in that capacity, inviting different organizations in. And I was getting closer to release. So once I knew I was being released in a few months, I started to contact the different organizations that I had links to. A guy called Lord Hastings was coming in to do his own motivational speeches at the same thing. So I met him as well. And I connected with all of them and asked them for them to organize different motivational events for me to attend. I organized different places where I would also give a speech. I organized the motivational event that the date was when I'm already been released, but I would come back and participate in that. So that's how I was able to open up so many different opportunities. And now it looks like I hit the ground running and that I've had a shortcut, when in reality, I haven't had a shortcut. It only looks like I've had a shortcut because everything's happening so fast and I've only been out for a couple months and I've done like 30 different events. I've been back to about 4 prisons to give speeches at and different kind of stuff like that. So people are ringing me like, oh, what's the shortcut? I'm getting out soon. I need to hit the road running like how you've hit the road running. But I'm like, that's because you used to watch me go into my cell with a stack of books that high coming back from the library and used to watch me studying for my degree every single day. This is the result of that work that I put in then. So it looks like a shortcut to you because I got out, but you watch me
There
put
is
in the
no
work.
there are no shortcuts
Yeah,
to success. There is no such
yeah,
thing as a free lunch. I really
yeah,
believe that you
yeah,
pay the price either way, either through hard work
yeah,
and dedication or
yeah,
through lack of it.
yeah, yeah,
And so it's simple as that. There is, life is I think life is
yeah,
fair.
yeah,
Even
yeah,
those times when you think it's not fair, it's teaching you a lesson
yeah,
that you need
definitely,
at that moment in time. So on
definitely,
that note,
definitely.
just we're going to wrap this up because we do need to wrap this up now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that's
yeah, of
how you
course.
started becoming a speaker 2-3 months out. Because I remember I saw
Yeah,
you
yeah,
about a couple of months ago, and I was like
yeah,
fascinated with your story. And I thought
yeah,
it's because I think you resonated with me so much
mm,
because I see my brother in you and
yeah,
my
yeah.
brother's friends in you. My
Oh,
brother was lucky. He started off that way, but by the time he was in 19, I think my
mm,
mother's prayers and whatever else
mm,
really worked on him. He went back.
mm,
He did his
yeah,
GCSEs, by the way. Then he
yeah,
did his
yeah,
A
yeah,
levels. Then he went and did
yeah,
degree. So he came. So in case
yeah,
he's listening, he did really
yeah,
well. So I'm not saying
yeah, yeah,
he was like this
yeah, yeah,
for the longest
yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
he started off when he was 10, 11,
yeah,
12, so he could have
yeah,
ended up in behind bars.
yeah, yeah,
And a lot of his
of
friends
course.
did, and they have, they've got. I mean, he still has sort of contact with some of them, but these people have done drugs. They've done, they've been shootings. They've gone. My cousins has gone in for something like that. Two of my cousins actually. One went in for a GBH, and God knows what else. And
Yeah,
so I know these boys, and they're good boys, but they have
mm,
no solid male role
yeah,
model to teach
yeah,
them
yeah,
otherwise. And they're all there, and
definitely.
whereas my brother's now working, and we've got business together, and we are working.
Yeah,
These boys are still stuck in the rut where they're trying to find a
yeah,
shortcut to
yeah, yeah,
money,
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah,
thinking they're so clever. They
mm,
can put their minds to something worthwhile and actually be success at it, but
yeah,
they need that motivation. They need that someone to support them. Whereas I think you
mm,
were very, very, you're a chosen one. I won't call you lucky. I think
mm,
you created your own luck, but I think you have been chosen by the universe, and you were
mm,
guided to the right direction. I think
mm. Oh, thank you. I
that was
appreciate
just,
that.
and
I
I
appreciate
really
that.
want to commend you. I think I knew
Yeah. Thank
this
you.
I was
Thank
looking
you.
forward to this podcast because I knew it was going to be
Mm,
fascinating,
yeah.
and you've literally lived up to my expectations.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Thank
an
you. I'm glad.
inspiration.
And thank you for the
Yeah.
opportunity so much as well.
I really want to go out saying, I didn't do this as a favor. I know for a fact, I knew that I could tell because I'm quite intuitive. I knew that you'd be amazing. And you've proven that because you
Yeah,
can go from the slumps and you can go to the top. And I want
yeah,
to highlight a few things that happened to you as a money mindset coach.
yeah,
One of the biggest things we need to do is build that self-belief. And you build that
yeah,
self-belief by reading those books about people who were there, who came out
yeah,
top. And if they can
yeah,
do it, we can do it. This is why
yeah,
one of the things that everyone talks about is reading biographies of people, these amazing people, because it
yeah,
teaches you how normal people did
yeah,
extraordinary things, how
yeah,
you can also be extraordinary. That's the first thing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then everything in your life led you down a path which
yeah,
shaped you to be this amazing public
yeah.
speaker, this amazing
Thank you. Thank
motivation
you.
person. So
Thank you.
well done, Kieron. You
Thank
are
you.
an
Thank you
amazing.
so much.
Oh, we have to
Thank
have you
you.
back for Money Talkies because I think we need to get some inspiration talk from you too.
Yeah,
But for
yeah.
today, thank you so much. I mean, now tell everybody, Kieron, where can we connect with you? How can we find you on the internet?
So on LinkedIn as Kieron Bryan. I'm on the Instagram as the Mountain of Dreams Project.
Wonderful. So if
Yeah.
you are listening to us on the podcast, the links for Kieron will be in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, down below in the description section, we will have the links for you to go and connect with Kieron. I highly recommend it. I connected with him on LinkedIn, and I'm so glad I did. And it was literally watching a post of somebody else. I read it, connected with him, started speaking to him, and I thought, yeah, I want him on my podcast. And I'm so glad. So we'll have you back on
Thank you
Money
so much.
Talkies, but thank you so much for being a guest today, Kieron.
Okay, bye. Thank you so much for listening.
And thank you for listening to me and Kieron today on a Friday Features. I will be back with another amazing guest, finding out how they truly change their life by changing their mindset. And Kieron is a prime example of that. So we will find another amazing guest who changed their life by changing their mindset. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull signing off. Take care and bye for now.